We're back with the show. Once again, it's Gerald coming right back at you here and continuing our series of the great podcasters that are around the world sharing their thoughts on the top five in pop culture in 2018. I couldn't even have someone count down a list without our good friend here from The Voice from the Underground. You got to catch it today on Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and over 30 different podcast outlets just like ours. You got to listen to the show if you're into politics, you're into pop culture, you're into our great conversation between three great guys that are out there. I've got one of them here today, and he's going to share his list of top five stuff that's going on in pop culture. It's Dutch from Voice from the Underground. How's it
What's
going,
up?
man?
Hey, Gerald. Who are the three great guys? Because I haven't met them yet.
Oh, well, they're the guys that are actually on the show that actually have their names attached to it every time I see it pop up on Apple Podcasts.
We appreciate it. I'm blushing.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Yes, if you could only hear that and see that on the radio coming through right there. But it is going to be, I'm asking and I'm reaching out to podcasters from all over talking about their top five pop culture, whatever in is 2018. It could be anything that just, spoke out to you. I'm really interested to get a gauge of what podcasters are thinking about when it comes to pop culture. So without further ado, my friend, take it away.
Hey, I'm happy to contribute, my friend. Another great idea by the Pop Culture Cosmos, as usual. So I'm guessing you want us to go in reverse order here, Gerald. So
I guess to build up the suspense for everyone listening out there.
That's what we'll do. We'll build up as much suspense as possible. So first of all, now I will say, and I almost want to give an honorable mention here. I have a feeling that Aquaman would be on this list, but the freaking movie's not out yet. But the trailers look awesome. So definitely, I think that will make the list. And I will say Creed 2 probably just missed it because that was a great film as well. But my number five is actually one that I'm going to be a little critical of because I think it can be a lot better. And that is the DC Universe app. So the DC Universe app was launched about 4 or 5 months back by DC. And there's a lot of cool content on there, especially if you're a fan of the DC animation. The Death of Superman. I guess it's a movie. It's about an hour and 20-minute cartoon that is on that particular application and came out earlier this year. Is awesome. It is not quite true to the Death of Superman omnibus comic, but it is really, really close to it. It uses a more current iteration of the Justice League rather than the Booster Beetle, Guy Gardner, Ice, and Maxima and Bloodwind iteration of the Justice League that was in the original Death of Superman. But it's really, really good, really well done movie. I really, really enjoyed it. Wonder Woman's a badass in that, so love it. But I will say that the best part about the DC Universe app is the ability to download comic books, and that's the thing. That's why it makes the list, because this is something that I think is really unique, really cool, really new, and DC's onto something here. Now, there's a lot of negative about this app too. There's not a lot of content. It costs probably a little bit more than it should. I haven't watched Titans yet, but at least to be able to read comic books, and instead of having to drive down to my local comic store, download them right to my phone. I'm reading an Infinite Crisis right now. Crisis on Infinite Earths right now, which is awesome, going back in time. So love that one. Number 4 is actually a podcast. The Pop Culture, no, just kidding. You just missed the list. It's actually a new podcast that started this year. It's called Business Wars. I don't know if you've heard of this one yet, but it is absolutely fantastic. I actually looked at the name of the narrator earlier, and now it slips my mind, but he does a great job. They've covered such topics such as Southwest Airlines versus American Airlines, Marvel versus DC. They've covered what are some of the other ones that they covered here? I'm trying to think. They covered Nintendo versus PlayStation. There's been so many different cool topics that they talk about. And what they do is they basically go back all the way, to like the 60s or 70s, or in the case of Ford versus Chevy, back to like 1905. And they talk about how the company started, what happened in the boardrooms, like obviously not verbatim, but close to what's going on with it. You learn things you never knew about these companies and the people behind the companies. It is an absolutely invigorating listen, and I highly, highly, highly recommend Business Wars, which is a Wondery podcast. So maybe a little too many ads for my taste, but outside of that, great. Number 3. So I'm a big Cubs fan, and I will tell you that while I think the Cubs didn't have the greatest year this year, even though they did go to the playoffs, I'm very happy that for the first time, I want to say in franchise history, the Cubs went to the playoffs for the 4th consecutive season. Now, if you think about it, the Cubs hadn't gone to the playoffs between the 1945 World Series and the 1984 National League East Championship team, the Sandberg team, and the Sutcliffe team. So it was great to see this team, starting to evolve itself into an every year consistent baseball team for once in my freaking life. It is amazing. And again, I didn't think they were probably good enough to go to the playoffs this year. Somehow they won more games than last year. And they obviously lost in the wild card, but nonetheless, continuing a great trend for the Cubs, my guys, my boys, the 2016 World Series champions, and looking for another one next year in 2019. So
they got to get going with the winter meetings here, because it looks like the Mets, Washington is getting they're both getting a lot of pub on what their maneuvers are doing right now, trades that they're doing, free agent acquisitions that they're signing to, Atlanta and whatnot. My Angels and your Cubs are just got to get a little bit of the fire in their belly to try and get some thing done as far as the winter meetings are concerned.
Probably 2 of the most guilty teams in history of signing guys that are, just past their prime. It's guys who are entrenched in mediocrity. So I think both teams have gotten away from that a little bit. And I'll tell you what, the Angels have some pretty special players on that team. One of them happens to have the initials MT. So
I will say this, and that's correct. Mike Trout is just truly a superior talent, and it'll be a shame if he never gets a chance to go to a World Series. I would really be disheartened if that was the case.
Well, he will. It's just that when he signs with the Cubs in a couple of years, then he'll go. So
there you go.
But yeah, the winter meetings, again, not to get off on a tangent here, as we do so often on Voice from the Underground. But the winter meetings, we are looking forward to that next week. So that'll be big. And, Bryce Harper, Machado, Blackman are going to be the guys to keep an eye on there, and hoping the Cubbies can grab one of those guys. So, all right. Number 2, and I'm cheating a little bit here, Gerald, because this was released on December 29th of 2017, but I didn't watch it till 2018. And it's close enough, right? Like Aquaman. We'll probably talk about that next year. Black Mirror. Black Mirror was off the chain. It was amazing. I loved pretty much every episode of it. Black Museum and USS Callister, probably the best 2 of those, and there was a couple of other good ones.
USS Callister definitely was an outstanding one. Yes, the museum one was actually a great way to close it out too, with the young lady who actually did a great job in Black Panther.
Yeah,
just her performance in there gave like a little precursor to what she was going to do in Black Panther. So that was obviously something that to look forward to there. And I think USS Callister's actually either being spun off into a show or received some type of award. Just it got a lot of notoriety as far as something in and of itself. So I think there's a lot of future going forward for that specific episode, as far as either branching out or them delving into some sort of aspect with that particular episode.
It's possible maybe what those and they're not really people. You have to watch the show to see what they are, but what they do once they are released from the guy who looks like the fake Matt Damon, once they're released from his clutches. So that would be probably an interesting story. I'm not sure how different it would be from, the Orville or Star Trek or all these other shows, but
It is going to be a spin-off series.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll definitely have to take a peek at that because that was one of my favorite episodes. And actually, every episode of Black Mirror is really good. And it's hard to my mind sort of wants to assimilate all of the different 4 seasons because I watch them very close in conjunction with one another. But I mean, there's just been so many episodes, and it's really a show where you have to digest the episodes. You want to watch 7 in a row, but if you watch, you're like, holy crap, I have to think about what is it that I just saw, and the social ramifications of everything that, it's sort of a dystopian sort of society. But if your listeners have not paid attention to Black Mirror, and maybe if they liked the Twilight Zone a little bit when they were younger, you gotta watch Black Mirror. Black Mirror is so good. And Netflix, I think, just released or just accidentally released the release date for the upcoming season 5. And it's looking like it's going to come out right before the new year again, just like they did last year. So, number 1. Now, I haven't mentioned any Marvel movies yet. Okay. And I know that your lists are going to be inundated with Infinity War. And obviously, I loved Infinity War. But I wanted to only put one Marvel movie on here. And it's got to be BP, man. It's got to be Black Panther. Black Panther, to me, all these people who are saying that it shouldn't, if it wins Best Picture or it's nominated or anything that it gets as far as the Oscars go, is only going to be a social justice award because of the blackness of the film. And it just has to get one because it should. Guess what, people? You're dead freaking wrong. This movie is fantastic. It's one of the best superhero movies that I've ever seen, and it's because it's not really a superhero movie. Kind of like Logan, in a way, where it's a superhero movie, but it's not. The social messages are there, but there are so many dynamics on this, and we're actually going to break this down and get into the social impacts and the social messages of Black Panther right around the 1-year anniversary. It's going to be a fantastic show, but the movie itself, every time you watch it, you notice something else like, God, I didn't see that before. That has impact in real life. This is something that you actually see that, and sometimes it's right-wing stuff and sometimes it's left-wing stuff. And obviously an integral movie to the MCU as well, which I love. But Black Panther, Ryan Coogler, can't say enough. Absolutely fantastic. And it easily takes the cake for me in 2018.
Well, there you go. That's a tremendous list. That's your top 5 for 2018. Once again, it's Dutch from The Voice from the Underground. You got to check it out today on Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and over 30 different podcast outlets. But don't take it from me. Take it from Dutch. Dutch, you got to, before we head on out, man, you got to let everyone know why they need to check into and check out The Voice from the Underground.
Well, because you have nothing better to do, number 1. But number 2, we are an indie show, and what we do, our format is a little bit different than most podcasts. We are not a niche show. What we do basically is we'll cover something fun, something from the world of pop culture, like video games or comics, that sort of thing, movies for sure. But also we'll talk about something important. So we kind of split the show up, sometimes 70-30, sometimes 60-40. And we'll talk about something important like politics. We'll talk about social issues. We'll talk about a lot of race issues. We'll talk about socioeconomic issues. We talk a lot about 45. So, there's something really for everybody. And we sort of do, I think, a really great job of finding that mix. And, we give actually a lot of other podcasters a forum who may not have a show that focuses on politics or tougher issues to talk about, and give them a forum to come over and talk about those things on our show. And then we'll talk about something fun as well. Like I said, to sort of give the listener a broad spectrum of things to think about and to digest. So that's what we do. And we're just over a year now. We're going into our 66th episode next week. So check us
That's
out
awesome. Absolutely. Check it out. I've actually had the privilege of being on their show
3 or
on more
4
than one
times now.
occasion.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love it each and every time, whether you talk about politics, like you said, economic issues, social media, sports, pop culture, video games, movies. Whenever I'm on the show, you just cover the whole entire gambit. I have a great time. It's just an awesome podcast, and everybody needs to check it out. It is the
We got to
voice
go
from the
back and
underground.
we got to go back and check out our episode from January where we did our predictions for 2018 and
Oh my
see
gosh.
that we got every single one of them wrong. So that's always a lot of fun. And thank you for everything you've done for us and being such a great friend of the show.
Oh, that's awesome. It is, it's my pleasure. And likewise, it's just so great to have you on the show here, being on the show there, and checking out your top 5 of 2018 right here on the Pop Culture Cosmos.